Yes.
Would you care to identify yourself?
Not yet, if that's okay with you.
That's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
We'll just call you caller 3.
Okay.
That's the way you show up on the screen.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem at all.
No problem. No problem. Okay, so who we got? We've got Jake, Peter, Art, Brian, H. We've got Dennis. We've got Fred Paulson. We've got Treff. We've got Jay. We've got Len, who's back from the appointment. Hey, Len. No hitches along the way?
Oh, big hitch. I didn't go at all.
Oh, you're kidding me. All right, well, you'll tell us about
the weather was, it was so miserable and nasty, I just rescheduled.
Oh, man.
Heavy rain, heavy wind, cold, miserable.
Well, listen, you're better off than those guys in, I spoke to Jet yesterday, and he had snow. So,
oh yeah, they had a blizzard, right?
Yeah, and there was I, just got off the lake, and I had my boat on the roof, and I was getting water, and it was 82 degrees. I felt quite embarrassed, to be honest.
Yeah, to steal from an old Aerosmith song.
Yes.
Springs get up and go has got up and went.
What's the weather like down there in Laurel?
Oh, about 45 degrees and ugly.
Yeah, that's exactly what we had, Jake.
Yeah. And with rain off and on.
Well,
a real thrill.
I mean, the one effect that we're getting down here in southern Arizona from these storms, supposedly it's from the storms, is that we got real high winds again. I mean, the winds eased off on Sunday, but they're back again. I was going to take my boat up to row in Phoenix, but didn't do it because I didn't want to drive on the freeway with 26-foot boat on my roof. So, which was probably a smart move. All right. So let's get rolling here. Jake, I think we have 2 more callers.
Oh yeah, we do. A couple of people just joined us on the telephone. Would you care to identify yourselves?
Jay Curran, San Francisco.
Hi, Jay.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Caller number 3 from Cleveland.
Caller number 3 from Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay.
I just found out about this a little while ago, so I thought I'd check in this to see what this is all about.
Oh, and I was actually hoping, Mr. Cleveland, that you were somebody I've been working with in Cleveland who I keep encouraging to join the call, but I don't think it's...
No, that's not me. I actually had a female friend of mine that I've known her for, 40 years.
Yeah.
She was a cousin of my wife that passed away of cancer, and she called me up and suggested I maybe give you a call and see what this was about.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, we're very glad to have you.
You can call me Irish. How's that?
Okay,
caller number 3. Call me, I'm Irish.
All right. We'll call you Irish. We'll call you. I was going to call you Cleveland, but Irish is better than Cleveland.
Yeah, call me Irish. I'm all Irish, so that works for me.
Oh.
Okay. That's what we'll do.
Okay.
All right,
we still have some, we still have someone else on the telephone.
Okay.
Anyone else on the telephone that would like to identify themselves that hasn't spoken up?
This is Jay, and I've called in last week. Was the first time I've listened in.
Okay.
Okay. J-A-Y?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, but we didn't speak to you last week, if I remember. You just listened in, isn't that right? So in fact,
that's right. Then I went back and listened to at least one other one.
No problem.
Didn't need to talk.
Well,
yeah.
No, it's absolutely no problem. It's just that, you know, if somebody's never called in before, we give you some priority, and I don't. We have a lot of J's, so we will, but we will definitely recognize you. So let me go through who I see on the call. I see Jake, Peter Kafka, Art Boosie, Brian, Dennis Correa, Rick Paulson, Schreff, Jay Krugman, Len Sierra, Paul Frieda, Spokane Gray, Jay Bob, Cleveland Irish, and Jay. Did I miss anybody? Okay. So let me tell the new guys how we usually start, and I fully understand if you would prefer not to do this, but usually we will give you some time up front to tell us a little bit about your situation, how you found us, although Irish already told us how he found us, and where your disease is at right now, and what challenges you're facing, and see if there's any way that we can support you. If you gentlemen, either of you, both of you would rather pass, that is fine. Maybe we can come back to you later. If you're willing to move forward, then we would love to talk to you and give you some time. So,
do you want me to go ahead, Irish?
Irish, you are up. Very welcome.
Thank you. I wish I could be.
I think there's a few people on this call who empathize with that remark.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It seems to be the common thing amongst us all there.
Yeah.
Anyways, I have a recurring prostate cancer, and diagnosed about 5 years ago, and it was pretty aggressive. And the only reason I found it was because I went into the hospital and had over bronchitis, and they had taken tests and they found out. But anyways, I took the pellets at the Cleveland Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to knock it down pretty good, and all of a sudden it just started rising again and got a little aggressive. So I was given the opportunity because they can't do the radiation anymore. I went to the opportunity to go to either a hormonal therapy and chemotherapy. He wanted to do both, but then he decided after talking to a number of people at the clinic that that might be a little too much at one time, the same time doing both. So I opted for the hormonal therapy, and of course there's side effects with that too, including I'm going to have to buy a bra one of these days. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at right now. I take those lots of medications, and not really happy with the situation. It's frankly, it's a bit depressing. I lost my wife to cancer, so I kind of opted the chemotherapy aspect of it. That's why I've been trying to avoid that. And she was a nurse and at the clinic, and it was brutal. So I didn't want to go through the chemo right now. And I lost a girlfriend recently with chemo or cancer, and another girlfriend I had with cancer also. It seems to be everywhere, all kinds of cancers. Yeah.
well, you may be a good candidate for our caregivers call, which we run tomorrow night, since it sounds like you've done plenty of caregiving for advanced cancer, Irish, and that's a very good call. And of course, you're always welcome to join that. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, how old are you?
67 and a half.
Okay. You and I may have the same birthday. When's your birthday? November?
No, it's July 21st. 1950.
Oh, okay. You're closer than a half. That's a little closer than a half.
Yeah, a little bit.
A
Getting there.
little bit. Okay. We're born in the same year. My birthday's not till November. And what was your Gleason score when you were first diagnosed?
9.
4 plus 5 or 5 plus 4?
I don't recall right offhand. That was about five years ago, so I don't recall. It just worked out to a 9. Does that make sense to you, a 9?
Yeah, 9 makes a lot of sense, but there is some difference in terms of how you address the issues between a 4 plus 5 and a 5 plus 4.
Yeah.
I mean, what I find really interesting is that, well, let me ask you, you said you had the seeds, low dose radiation seeds. Did you get any?
At 110 seeds, give or take about 5 years ago at the clinic, Cleveland
Right.
Clinic.
So
Dr. Siski was my doctor. Have you ever heard of him?
what was his name?
Dr. Siski, he's around the world. He does a lot of speaking on the subject. I was told he does the second most amount of those, maybe the United States, but does a lot of them. Let's put it that way.
I haven't heard of him, but I will tell you one thing. I mean, we don't tend to let's say we call a spade on this call. With 110 seats, I doubt very much whether you had any additional radiation. Is that right? You didn't get IMRT?
No more radiation, and that lasted about 6 months ago is when it started really climbing again.
Right, but at the time you didn't get additional radiation.
No,
I find it very strange, and I think that some other people on this call will too, and remarkable that somebody as experienced supposedly as this Dr. Siski did not treat a Gleason 9 with hormone therapy, radiation, and seeds. I mean, to use seeds alone for a Gleason 9 is very, very unusual. Very unusual.
Well, it knocked my PSA down dramatically. I mean, it was unbelievable, stayed down.
No, I'm sure it did. But what it didn't do is it didn't knock it out your system. Now, in my own case, I was a Gleason 8, and I was treated at UCSF and at Kaiser. And I did IMRT, I did seeds like you, and I also did 28 months of hormone therapy, which wasn't easy, as you will find out, and as most of the men on this call can testify. At the same time, I did that in 2007, and my PSA has been insignificant since 2011. And what I'm saying is that I find it, number one, very strange that you didn't get additional treatment with the Gleason 9. If you would have told me you were a Gleason 7, I would have understood it, but not a Gleason 9. And number two, they're telling you that you can't have additional radiation now to your pelvic girdle, which is, again...
They said it's unlikely that I should do that next.
Yeah, well, we'll go through this a little bit, but, I think that why don't you tell us a little bit about your PSA? What was your PSA at the time that you were diagnosed?
17.5, give or take.
That's fine. And tell us about what this PSA has been doing since the disease returned, which I'm guessing was around September, October of last year, from what you said.
Yeah, somewhere around that time. During the course of, I go every 6 months to see either my urologist or Dr. Siski's office, the radio-oncologist's office, and I do blood tests all the time, PSA tests. And it had been low, and all of a sudden it started to double, but we were starting from a really low number because I think it went down to 0.008, I believe.
Right.
I was trying to remember 5 years ago. So, anyways, the bottom line was that doubling at that point wasn't bad, but it was slow, and then all of a sudden it started doubling every give or take every 3 months to 6 months, it would double, and
Right.
that caused some concern. So that's why we went to this hormonal therapy. It's just I told him I wanted him to be as aggressively as possible, but it came down to hormonal and chemo, and I know what chemo does to you because I sit there and watch my wife go through it and my friends, and it's just I just didn't want to go double this, both of them at the same time. He thought that probably wasn't necessary, so basically that's why I went with the hormonal. Could you tell me something though? May I ask you a question?
Let me just before you ask me, let me just follow through with this PSA. So the nadir was 0.008. What was it in 917 when you around September?
Around 3.
Okay, so it got up to about 3. And how long?
Yeah, it's a little more than 3.5, 3.4, somewhere in that area.
And how long did it take to get to that level? I mean, once you, what was it, doubling every?
6 months.
Sorry, six
months? Give or take about 6 months. Actually, maybe a year, because it was like it kept doubling on me. So it doesn't take much when you start hitting a certain number to double. All of a sudden you're at 3, whatever.
Right. So
give or take, it was doubling, and he was a little concerned.
A couple of things I want to say to you, then I'm going to throw it out and let the guys talk to you, and then we'll try and give you some thoughts. But you have a question for me, and then I'll come back to you.
You mentioned that you had taken a hormonal therapy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you took it for what, 22 months, give or take?
28.
28 months, okay. Now, I've only been doing hormonal therapy for, 4 or 5 months, give or take.
Right.
And I get a little bit of the quote hot flashes, and I noticed a few things that changes. I'm losing a few things. It seems like my muscle mass is a little less. I don't know. Maybe that has nothing to do with that. But what you had mentioned that hormonal therapy is what happens down the road after 28 months? Could you maybe give me an idea what I'm looking at?
We sure can, and I'm going to let the guys answer that because there's a lot of guys on the call, and they'll want to talk to you about that. And whoever talks to you, just perhaps I'll let you address it so that Irish doesn't get tired of my voice. We will definitely.
You got a great voice. I'm not tired of your voice. It's a wonderful voice. We'll definitely address that. I just want to, before I forget, are you on what hormone therapy are you on? Lupron? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'm not real good with names of things, so I have to look at the bottles and stuff. So I get a shot every 4 months in the doctor's office in the stomach, and I take I can't see either.
In the stomach.
I'm not trying to take your time here. You got other people I'm sure want to speak.
It's okay. So it's okay. Don't you let me worry about the time, and we'll and you
take 4 pills of Zytiga. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. Okay.
250 milligrams 4 times empty stomach.
Okay, so you're on Zytiga and prednisone.
Prednisone, correct. I have to take potassium, and I have to take calcium, and all that good stuff. So, and there's another one upstairs, but maybe it's not upstairs. It's right here. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I should have been more prepared.
No. It's just you're doing fine. You're giving us information, and God willing, you'll come back and you'll tell us more next time. But it's just enough of a picture. But I just want to. I just want to.
If it's every 4 months, it's probably Lupron, even though it's unusual to get that in your stomach.
Well, that's right.
Oh, there's another one. I don't know what the other one is. There's one that goes into your hip muscle. Is that correct? In your hip?
Yes.
That would be Lupron. Yeah.
Oh.
But there's another one that you can take of equal, I guess roughly equal, that goes into your stomach. I chose the stomach route.
Right.
Firmagon. Football injury from hip.
No, Firmagon isn't available. Firmagon isn't available in a 4-month depot shot. I think either Eligard or Zoladex is.
Yeah, I think that's whatever. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Going into the muscle in the hip, I have some problems with my hip at this point in my life after football injury. So I chose the other route.
Okay, and they probably gave you another pill for 15 days before you started, or
yes.
a month before you started. So let me ask you the more important question before I throw it open. Who is supervising your treatment right now? Is it Dr. Siski?
No, it's a Dr. Verma. He's an oncologist.
Okay, so you
very nice. I like him. He's a regular oncologist.
I see. And what's his name?
Dr. Verma at the clinic.
Verma. The reason I ask is because Cleveland Clinic has at least 2 genitourinary medical oncologists, and Verma may be another one. But you want to be sure that whoever it is that's supervising you has a specialty in prostate cancer and genitourinary diseases.
I believe he does.
Okay, because I was going to give you some names of some guys there that I'm aware of that do special at Cleveland Clinic, because I was just looking at that for somebody else earlier this week. But that's fine as long as you're.
I appreciate it. I'll be honest with you. I'm very happy with who I have dealt with, and all of them there are wonderful. I don't know if you guys know anything about the clinic, but they're very good operation over there. So
let me throw it open to the guys to talk to you a little bit about hormone therapy. And I guess I should ask you: has your PSA gone down to insignificant?
No, not yet. It's 0.06, I believe, at the last check. I got a blood test. Matter of fact, I took the test today, so they're going to give me this shot for so I don't get osteoporosis or trying to battle that situation.
Right.
So I'm getting that stomach shot. Matter of fact, Friday I'm scheduled for that. You wanted a PSA test before just to know a bunch of other things, but I took that test today, so I don't have the results. But the last one was give or take about 0.06 area.
Okay, and have you done any scans over the last 6 months? Have they checked to see if they can see anything?
Yeah, I've had a CT scan for nuclear medicine. I've had biopsies. I've had MRIs. I've had X-rays. I've had all that in the last, a lot of them.
Okay. So
they couldn't find it, Frank. They couldn't find the core of the problem on any of it.
Right. Well, there are some scans that are available that are more likely to show than regular CT scans, but let me throw it open to the guys to talk to you, especially about the impact of hormone therapy and what to do about some of these muscle issues and side effects that you're doing. Who'd like to kick this off?
Well, I can start, Rick.
Thank you.
Irish, welcome to the group, and sorry that you have to be a member. Unfortunately, the question you're asking doesn't lend itself to an easy answer, because every one of us is going to be responding differently to how hormone therapy affects us. They could not necessarily within this group, but in a broader scope of guys who get hormone therapy, the reactions could be anywhere from as desperate as suicidal and seriously depressed to just kind of a mild irritation. Some people get hot flashes that are so bad they wake up in the middle of the night soaking wet. For others, it's no more than a few passing moments feeling hot.
That's more me at this point, yeah. And as far as the depression, I feel that more recently, and it's not too concerning yet. But I'm keeping an eye on it because I also take Otezla. You familiar with Otezla? for
I've
cirrhosis.
heard of it.
For to keep the cirrhosis down. So that also has a side effect of not suicidal, but side effect of depression. So that's both of them probably do.
I'm sorry, did you say cirrhosis as in liver?
No.
Psoriasis.
Psoriasis.
Oh, psoriasis. Okay.
Yeah. I went brain dead there for a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
That's part of my therapy, brain dead.
Yeah, that is a side effect, kind of a feeling of cognitive impairment, unfortunately. And again, some guys feel it more than others.
As far as forgetting things, you mean?
What's that?
Forgetting things?
Forgetting things, yes. Not thinking clearly, not remembering things, exactly. Now, Rick has got us all brainwashed, and properly so, that the best thing you can do to avoid muscle weakness and fatigue is exercise, both cardiovascular and weightlifting, resistance exercise.
I just picked up a couple of arm bar weights from a friend of mine the other day. And so I see that situation because I am showing signs of losing muscle mass in my shoulders and that's.
Yeah, you can keep that at a minimum if you're very rigorous in your exercise program every day, to the extent that you can.
I haven't done that. I've been very lax at that, and I should do it. Yeah,
definitely step it up. Kind of paradoxical, but even though you're feeling tired when you exercise regularly, you'll actually feel like you have more energy.
I agree with you. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Same with weight loss, a little weight, and you feel better actually. So.
Yeah, I'll just let other folks chime in.
What have you had the any length of time that you've been on the hormonal therapy yourself, or?
Yes. I have been on and off. That's another nice thing about hormone therapy is you can occasionally go off if your PSA is low. You can give yourself a break and give yourself a chance to regain some muscle strength and some clarity of mind, and all the other things can be reversed. So I was diagnosed 4 years ago and probably been on hormone therapy at least half of that time, on and off. And at one time or other, I have felt, all the typical symptoms that we just discussed.
Just what you discussed with symptoms-wise and your forgetfulness a little bit and that type of thing, then, huh? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Is there anything that's dramatically going to be a problem down the road with hormonal therapy that maybe I should have second thoughts about and go to the chemotherapy? That you would recommend that, that's not necessarily.
Again, from my own personal perspective, no.
Okay.
But that's me. That's how I react to hormone therapy. I seem to tolerate it fairly well.
And I want to add something to that. I think that with recurrent disease, there's no way that you're going to be able to avoid hormone therapy. These treatments are not either or. Most of the men on this call who have done chemotherapy, and there are several, are on hormone therapy. Now, when we say hormone therapy, we're talking about the Lupron or the Eligard or the Zoladex. As far as the Zytiga is concerned, yes, usually they do not give you chemotherapy at the same time as the Zytiga. At some point, the Zytiga is likely to stop working, and that's when you would become eligible for chemotherapy. I'd like you, if you would, to go to our website. Do you have our website? I know.
Yeah, I have it on now.
Right. So if you go to our website and if you look for prostate cancer resources, which is, hold on a minute and I'll tell you where it is. It is it's under resources. It says prostate cancer links. And there's a conversation that I've highlighted there between 3 very good genitourinary doctors. Alicia Morgans, who's at Northwestern, Chuck Ryan, who used to be at UCSF and has just taken over the whole oncology group at the University of Minnesota, and Chris Sweeney, who is at Dana-Farber in Boston. And I'd ask you to listen to that conversation because they talk about the trade-off between going with second line hormone therapy, which is what you're doing, second line hormone therapy, which is the Zytiga. It can also be a couple of other drugs, and chemotherapy. And I think you'll find that discussion really helpful. The other thing that I would like to do, and before we finish with you, we'll figure out how to do it, is I want to send you a pamphlet on hormone therapy, which was written out of UCSF, and it discusses all of the side effects and what to expect. Because as you found out, and most men find out, doctors put you on hormone therapy and they don't tell you what to expect. I mean, it's, in my view, criminal that they put you on hormone therapy and they don't talk to you about exercise. Because exercise can help you with so many different things.
No, he did mention exercise. That's really my fault. I've been a little bit lax in that. I'm up in the Cleveland area, and this has been a horrid winter. And I just don't feel like going outside and walking.
Well, you don't have to. Get yourself go on Craigslist, find a used exercise bike from somebody who's given up, and put an exercise bike, somewhere in the house, and some weights.
Well, I actually have a ski walker, so it's my lax of doing it. That's the problem. It's not the doctor.
Okay. So we're not blaming the doctor, and we're not blaming the weather, right, Irish?
No, I'm blaming me.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. All right, let's just move on quickly, and then we'll wrap up so we've got time. But how about some of the others? How about Jake and Peter and Dennis and what else? And some of you guys, Paul Frieda, who've been doing hormone therapy for a long time. Talk to this guy.
Hi, Irish. This is Jake. I've been on hormone therapy since June of 2012. I was a Gleason 8, and I do have metastases. So I'll be on it all my life until I die. Now I've like Len said, everybody has different reactions to the hormone therapy. Some worse than others. I never had that many side effects. You do have a little bit of fatigue. You do have, you probably sleep more than you normally would. Of course, there's sexual dysfunction. But other than the sexual dysfunction, I found that the side effects actually went away with time.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. They didn't go away completely, but they got less and less, and they got, much more tolerable. So that I don't even
stays with you all along. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's not going to go away. No,
is there any reversal on that at all?
Pretty much only if you stop taking it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I didn't know.
But you sound like you might be in a situation similar to Rick's, where you might only be on a hormone therapy for a couple of years. So then it would your sexual functions would return then once you stop it. Like me,
he says one day it's going to not work and we're going to have to go another route. That's what he told me.
Okay, so he's talking about you taking it the rest of your life also?
Well, until it doesn't work is what he said. And he's not trying to guarantee anything. He just says,
right,
keep going until it doesn't work anymore, and then we'll try another route. And as you're buying time, other things come on the market. You never know,
Right.
And I think that's a great approach, actually. So,
well, that's the way I look at things. I look at it the same way. I'm always hoping that something new will come along that works better.
New coming along, so I believe that. So my wife died 35 years ago. What they took 35 years ago compared to today is a whole different world.
Right.
So, You know, so
Well,
it's just a matter of buying time.
just so you know, when they say Lupron doesn't work anymore, that's not really true. It continues to work. It just doesn't continue to work as effectively as it once did.
Yeah.
If you stopped it completely and you still had cancer in your body, your cancer would take off like a rocket. Lupron may not keep it. You may need to have additional things besides the Lupron, but it never stops working.
Jake,
I've got a quick
hold on,
question.
Peter, hold on 1 second. I'll come right to you. Jake, whilst you've got Irish's attention, talk to him about the inner conversations call with respect to some of the mental aspects.
Okay. Using the same number, same call in, everything that you did tonight to get onto this call. There's another call that we have every Wednesday. It's for all cancers, but so far it's mostly people with prostate cancer. It's called Inner Conversations, and we do not talk about technical stuff. You know, we talk about it a little bit, but we try to stay away from the technical aspects, and we talk more about the emotional aspects.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
You know, depression.
Same phone number?
Pardon me?
It was the same phone number, same code?
Yes. Everything's exactly the same, 8 o'clock Eastern time.
On Wednesdays, okay.
On Wednesdays, yeah. So we'd be glad to have you.
Right.
And we talk about, you know, sadness, anger, depression.
Got them all.
Yeah. Okay. And we usually end up the phone call. You know, we end up kidding a lot, and we end up laughing and telling stupid stories. And most people that join us, by the end of the day, they end up feeling better. And I think
I feel a little bit better talking to you guys right now, to be honest with you. I think this has been very good that she steered me here. So I appreciate what you guys have been telling me so far. I really do appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that the Inner Conversations call can come with an X-rated warning. So
so don't put it on speakerphone.
Not if you got company you don't want to, right, Jake?
No, if your mother-in-law is there or your kids are there, no.
No, I don't have anybody here at all, so that's okay here.
Peter, talk to Irish.
I just have a couple of questions I'm curious about. If you don't mind, I don't know if you want to answer it or not. When you said your PSA jumped from pretty much undetectable up to 3 in a short period of time, almost a year, at that point, did they scan you at all to determine where the activity was? You said you didn't.
Yeah, I had biopsies done. I went down to the main hospital, the clinic, and did a nuclear medicine scan. That was on that bench for, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes or something, and it was nothing they could find. But the PSAs kept going up, and they did MRIs, you name it, they did it, and they just couldn't detect it anywhere. But they just went by the PSA, and they just didn't want that to get out of hand.
Understood. You know, I'm just curious because they do have scans now. I just recently had one because my PSA was down in the undetectable range and only went up not that much. It was still under 1 after about 4 months, and I did a scan that actually found the activity in a few lymph nodes with a PSA of 0.77, and it was able to pick it up. But I don't know how sensitive a scan they use there. I'm just it's probably not effective to do that now that you're on hormone treatment. I mean, hormone treatment, as you just mentioned yourself, buys you time. So it's going to buy you time until it stops working. And then chemo is not just buying you time, although it does in one sense, but chemo actually will destroy good cells and bad cells. So I don't know what to say, with just guessing where this activity is, whether it's back in the prostate bed or whether it's out in the
Well, he seems to think it's still in the prostate itself and hasn't gotten outside the prostate, which has concerned me as it's gotten outside the prostate. I hear there's all kinds of wonderful things that can go on and bone and
But he's
whatever else.
but he's just guessing, though. That's the thing that concerns me.
And
I don't know how you can
Peter,
treat
can I just come in for a second? Because in discussing this with this other guy who's at Cleveland Clinic, what emerged is that the scan that Peter got, which is called a gallium 68 scan, is actually available on trial at the Cleveland Clinic. It's part of a trial that's being headed out of the Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. And the fellow that I was talking to, I recommended that he go to University of Michigan, and he came back and said to me, no, that scan is available. Now, the other scan that you can look at is something called an Axumin scan, AXUMIN, which is certainly covered by Medicare, and that is definitely available in the Cleveland area. So there are two scans.
What is it? AX, what is it?
U, M as in Mary, I,
Yeah.
India, N, Nancy, Axumin. And
Okay. The first one was called what? I didn't have my pen
the first
available
one is
there.
called a gallium 68.
Gallium,
Gallium, Mary.
AUM 68. Okay.
Also known as a PSMA, I believe.
And it's also includes PSMA. But my point is,
Okay.
those scans are available now. As Peter says, now that you've been doing the Zytiga, I'm not sure quite what will show up, and they may try and fob you off. But I don't know why they didn't scan you with these more refined scans in the last few months, because they are available.
Well, I had to take what was that stuff called that you take for? I'm having a little brain fart here. Where you had to take to do that scan. It was a nuclear scan. I had to take that medicine. It only lasts so long, and
Right.
then they do the scan. What, is that what we're talking about here?
No, it's
Right.
similar, but these scans are better. But let me say, we probably need to move on.
Let's move on.
Here's what I'd like to do, Irish. Make a note of my email address. You have a pencil there. It's R as in Richard, D as in Davis, RD at ANCAN, Alpha Nancy Charlie Alpha Nancy.org. Send me.
Let me give you. I'll give you my email. Is that you want my email?
That's fine. Yes, I didn't want to ask you for it because I respected your privacy, but that's fine. Give it.
No. It's all right. It's not. It's no big deal. I'm Irish 27. It's actually I'm Irish 27 at sbcglobal.net.
I'm Irish 27 at sbcglobal.net.
.net. That's it.
I am going to send you some stuff after the meeting, and if you don't hear from me, come back to me. If you don't hear from me by tomorrow, come back to me at rd@ancan.org, and we'll get you onto the distribution. We'll be talking to you more regularly. You'll talk to these guys at the inner conversation, and we'll start supporting you through this process.
It's rd@an.
CAN.
Your email. I'm sorry. A what?
ANCAN. ANCAN.
Dot what?
Org. ORG.
.org. Oh, okay. rd@ancan.org. Okay, very good. I'm sorry to take you guys this much time of yours, and I appreciate you doing this. And I didn't want to clog up the meeting here, so I appreciate what you're all helping me with.
You did not clog up the meeting. I'm going to move on to I know.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Just before you go, this is Art. Let me throw something else out there. Since there's so little good news that comes along with side effects. It's too bad you're on the phone, Irish. You can't see this, I'm guessing. But you other guys can see that. See the top of my head?
Yeah.
All that hair? That's all new hair up there. Yeah.
Growing hair?
Yeah, I got hair back on the top of my head because of hormone treatment.
Is
Yes.
that
Anybody else had
that's a good side effect because I know chemo's. That was the other reason I didn't want to do it. You lose all your hair. My wife lost all her hair, so I didn't want to go that route. That was a secondary reason.
Now I'm going to lose it all again to chemo probably, but it was fun.
Oh yeah. So you're growing hair. I love it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We don't hear that very often.
Well,
yeah.
We have. Oh no, we had somebody else that was on the phone, but they must have dropped off. Oh yeah, no, we do. Somebody joined us on the telephone. Would you like to identify?
Sure, Rick, it's Jim Harrington.
Hello, Jim Harrington, number 7.
Hi, Rick.
Hello, hello. Good to
Wait a minute. Let me get to it, Rick. Hang on.
Number 7.
Okay, Jim Harrington. Got it.
John Appler here too, Rick.
And John Appler, number 6.
Got it.
Okay.
Welcome, guys.
Now,
Hey,
Jay, would you like to go through the same exercise? Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, I am. Let me.
Okay, you're
Okay.
up.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll run through my history. It's about a month ago. I had I'm 57. About a month and 6 weeks ago, maybe. PSA of a normal digital exam, but PSA of 35.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went to Mayo Urology for PSA screening, nurse practitioner, and had an abnormal digital exam, some fine bumps on the right and overall hardness. Then had a MP-MRI, PIRADS 5, large involvement on the right side, likely seminal vesicle involvement as well, and no lymph node apparent, but had 2 bone hot spots, 4 millimeters on L5, 5 millimeters on the ischium. Was referred to oncology. Chose to go with of those available. I can't remember who else it was, but Lance Pagliaro, medical oncologist at Mayo in Rochester, and had a bone scan. Urology had actually referred me to bone scan, and he had gotten in the bone scan, the one in the ischium disappeared, but the one in the L5 persisted, and with no new ones. And then met with an oncologist and said, could I get a C11 scan? Had read about that, knew that would be the probably best to see everything or anything, and found it great. And the C11 came back with no significant uptake anywhere except in the primary of the prostate and both seminal vesicles.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good news. But worrisome. Oh, I had skipped a big part of that. Before I left urology and got a bone scan, I had a standard truss biopsy with Gleason 4.4 on the right, almost 100% involvement, all cores, and then on the left, 3+4. I think it was either 20 or 40%. And the most in one core was 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so in the end, sort of the C11 is sort of it's Gleasonate with the other is likely EPE, likely extra prostate extension.
Right.
On is the other aspect of it.
Right.
Then I spoke with also a radiation oncologist who, and his name is Brad Stish, and he's great because he really was great at answering questions. I think the medical oncologist chose him because I had so many questions and read so much literature and was deep into trying to decide between all these difficult decisions. And he said Stish was, both he and Stish recommend doing a combination therapy, which would be temporary high dose to the prostate, along with IMRT to the pelvic area after some a brief wait, and that would be preceded by ADT for a couple to 2 to 4 months to shrink things down before they go in with a damaging high dose.
Right.
And the alternative, they say, is it gives us both. Either give the same outside survival rates would be to do radical prostatectomy,
right,
followed by a wait of several months in order to recover as much continence as they bear before you have waited too long and need to go ahead and get the whole pelvic area zapped and do IMRT and do a heavier dose than earlier because there would be some, of course, overflow from the high dose to the prostate.
Sure.
And to the pelvic area, so that they would try to balance that out.
Right.
Those are the choices. I have yet to talk to a surgeon, and I've got an appointment coming up to speak with Carnes. I chose Carnes again because both of them said of all the guys at Mayo, he'd be the one that's the most deep dive, willing to sit and talk with you about any questions you have. He only does open. He used to do robotic, but chose to just do open. And but he seems to be perhaps the guy to talk to, and then I can ask him about referring to who in-house to do the other. I may also ask him about the benefits of doing open, if any, in my condition.
Right.
My circumstances. But am leaning towards the other, robotic. And the real struggle is between the two methods, and the second method has clearer staging to it, has the advantage of not going on ADT at the start, possibly might not need to go on it, but probably would, given that he said you've got it bad cubed, is what the oncologist said.
Well, I'm going to have you talk to somebody on this call who had it a lot worse than you and has had a lot of success at Mayo in a moment. But before I do that, I just want to ask you a couple of questions and give you one observation. I just want to clarify. Did you say Carnes? Is that C-A-R-N-E-S?
With a K, yeah, K-A-R-N-E-S. Carnes.
K-A-R-N-E-S. And nobody amongst all the doctors, your Stish and Carnes and Pagliaro, nobody suggested you see Jean Kwan?
No one did. I actually asked the nurse practitioner, how can I get with him? And she said, well, he's usually for cases that are advanced and are problematic, and you can't figure, nobody knows what to do, sort of thing, something like that.
Well,
and I said, I'd like to get with him. So
I think you're a perfect guy for Jean Kwan, and we maybe we'll try and figure out how we can get to him for you. But I mean, I do think you're a perfect guy for Jean Kwan if Mayo is your institution of choice. The one thing that I want to say to you about treatment choice is essentially something I did a long time ago, and it was very, very helpful to me. And that is, I ran the Memorial Sloan Kettering nomogram. And a nomogram, are you familiar with the concept of a nomogram?
I am, and they ran that for me.
Okay. And when they ran it for you, what was the likelihood that you would need additional treatment if you had surgery?
Very high.
Right.
Yeah, very high.
Very high.
It's like 5% and 5% chance that I won't need it in 5 years.
Right. Well, in my case, it was 30% it was 30% chance that I wouldn't need it, and that was too high for me. And so what I said is, look, if I'm going to have to do radiation and hormone therapy anyway, do I really want to add the additional side effects of a radical prostatectomy? And I just don't know what the real benefit is to removing the prostate versus radiating the prostate if you know you've got to do IMRT and you know that you've got to do hormone therapy, because the radical prostatectomy, as they've already told you, is likely to include adjuvant radiation and hormone therapy.
That's right.
You know, if they didn't mention it, the hormone therapy to you in the radical prostatectomy, then don't be surprised. They'll give you hormone therapy as well.
I figured that there's going to be a lot of misery to come. It's a question of it's the trade-offs. You take your misery on the front end or the back end. And it's really where do I end up in a couple of years is where I want to know. And I'd like to be able to be able to say, I've got the cancer at bay, and that what I'm able to do now is have at least the prospect of coming off of ADT.
Right.
It's, for some period.
Right. And as you heard, the other
thing I want to go ahead.
I was able to do that. I came off the ADT, and thank God they nailed it. I was very fortunate. But Brian Heisey, why don't you talk to Jay a little bit about your situation and your results?
Hi, Jay. Welcome to the group. Like Len said, it's not a group we necessarily wanted to join, but I was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. It's about a year ago, exactly. And in my case, through some of the scans, just the regular CT scans, the both scans, they had found metastasis to the bones. I had cancer throughout my pelvic area. I had Gleason 9, and wasn't happy with the information I was getting from my local urologist, and so I decided to pursue Mayo Clinic, and actually called them, and because of my case, and I have heard this before about Eugene Kwan, but because of my case being advanced and where I was at, they wanted me to see him, and I was able to get in to see him in a couple weeks, actually. And I was fortunate, I think, because I've heard that people have to wait a lot longer. And I know someone else also from my area here in Illinois that had a very unique situation as well, that was able to get in to see him pretty quickly. But he was a 39-year-old that had advanced prostate cancer. I'm 56, so I'm similar in age to you. So I ended up, seeing Dr. Kwan and meeting with them, and they recommended, going on hormone therapy and doing chemo. Wanted to attack it aggressively. At the time, my PSA, I think, was 25, and we, were able to, with the chemo, the 6 rounds of Taxotere, knock it down pretty quickly in that time period, down to 0.2. Then I kind of took a break for a little bit, talked to my medical oncologist here locally, and after talking some more, I decided to go back to Mayo Clinic and talk to them more about what my other options were. They were talking about Zytiga at the time, but they also were talking about IMRT, and I decided to go with IMRT. Actually, I met with Ed Stish, who's the same person you met with. I liked him a lot. He had a lot of good answers for the questions I had, and in my case, since my PSA was down pretty low at that point, and they felt it was, mostly now confined in the prostate area and some of the pelvic area. From the C11 scans, they could tell, there was still some in the lymph nodes as well in that area. So I went through 20 rounds of IMRT, and that was November to December of last year. And
what is IMRT? I'm sorry to interrupt. You're throwing that out. I don't know what that is.
It's a radiation. I'm trying to remember the exact. Someone help me out here. The exact terminology for the IM.
Intensity modulated radiation therapy.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I hear these terms and I didn't know what they were.
No problem.
And one of the things that Stish said about IMRT is that there used to be EBRT, right, external beam radiation treatment, and he said, everybody today is pretty much, if there's anybody out there using anything but IMRT, they're using old inferior technology, he said. So I don't know, that's important to know. If someone suggests something, make sure that it's IMRT or better.
Thank you.
Well, and so I just want you to know that sometimes we see successful outcomes with pretty serious disease.
Yes.
And I do.
Look, I'm sorry, this is Jay again. I just wanted to catch who was it that was just tell me about meeting with Stish and so forth.
It was Brian Heisey who lives in the Chicago suburbs. Where do you live, Jay?
I'm in Tennessee. I'll leave it at that.
In Tennessee. Okay. Yeah. So after, I had some side effects from the radiation. This is Brian again. It wasn't too bad. It was a lot better than the chemotherapy. That's for sure. But I would say by now most of it is gone. It's dissipated, and my PSA is now undetectable, which I'm very happy about. I went back in February and had another C11 scan and MRI, and I'm basically undetectable. So I go back in end of June to meet with both Dr. Kwan and Dr. Stish and have scans again just to see where things are at. But as Rick said, I had a very good, a good response, and I had very good success with the male folks, and I would recommend Dr. Stish.
Yes, good.
Okay. And we actually, I was going to say to you, Jay, we actually have another Tennessee gent on the telephone right now, I think. You're still in Tennessee, aren't you, Jay Kruckman?
Yes, I am. Memphis area.
Okay. And anything you'd like to say to Jay?
Well, unfortunately, welcome. We're all going through lots of different things here. Me as well. Just get as much information and stay with this group, I think, really. There's a wealth of information out here, and people will tell you what they've been through very well. So that's really it.
Thank you. This is Jay, and I wanted to add a couple of things to my history or where I'm about to go.
Sure.
And that is, I would like to get with Quan, and maybe offline I could perhaps, Rick, try to make contact with you and maybe ask a couple of the questions.
Sure.
But okay, the other things were that when I initially had a bone scan and saw it was MRI suggested and the bone scan suggested that I might have something in the bones, but C11 said not. I started preparing for metastatic treatment, and so I've got an appointment to shortly. I'm supposed to go see Sweeney, anticipating because of what he had done with the charted study and go up and so forth. So I've got that scheduled, and that's something I can talk about him about if it does, I'm likely to have recurrence, and that is likely to, that's a definite possibility. So unfortunately, I found, in reading that for aggressive but non-metastatic hormone resistant, they did an arm where they pulled the chemo up front for that,
Mm-hmm.
and it did not pan out. It did not provide any additional survival. So that's not a treatment that's being
Yeah, early chemo for non-metastatic, I think, is still up in the air, and I kind of recall what you're talking about. I can't remember the study specifically, but then there have been other studies that are still looking at early chemo for non-metastatic. I mean, I'll give you one example that and this is an example close to our heart. We had one of our early moderators and a good buddy of mine who's passed now was in a trial back in 2005 where he followed up his radical prostatectomy with chemotherapy. And he lived for another 10 years, and he had very, very aggressive disease. It wasn't metastatic when he had the chemo. To this day, I'm convinced that the chemotherapy, having that chemotherapy so early, was important. Now, I don't even think they've published the results of those trials yet because it just takes so long. So, I think we just don't know. I will say, Chris Sweeney's great, and we've got a couple of guys that see him. I will also say that Alicia Morgans, who is at Northwestern, is great, and a lot closer. And Chuck Ryan just moved to Minneapolis. All three are really good. So it's just I'm only just trying to save you some travel because Sweeney's really good. He's really good. But the other guys are more in your the other two are more in your area, and we've got other guys that we recommend too. Jay Krutman went to see Alicia Morgans, and he's sort of wrestling with his insurance so he can perhaps go back to see more.
Okay. A couple of other things I want to throw out there is that I also was trying to get in to see go to where you went in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine had a radical prostatectomy by Peter Carroll.
Right.
I've asked to see him, and I'm waiting to hear back. And then also I've got a meeting scheduled shortly with Denmead. I was thinking that I was again metastatic and try to get into a trial for BAT later on. I didn't want to make any missteps and go on some treatment that would preclude me from being able to do BAT.
So you just hit the jackpot twice. Denmead did a presentation for us, so we have direct contact to him. And if you look on our website under resources, you'll find the BAT presentation, and he'll be talking to you.
I've been there and listened to it many times.
I beg your pardon?
I've listened to it several times. I've listened to your recording several times.
Okay, great. As far as Peter Carroll is concerned, he's Peter Kafka's doc. I know him well enough that if you want an appointment with him, I can write to him tonight and we can get you in really quickly. But you just want to, I need to know from you because I don't want to write to Peter and say, I've got a guy who wants to come in from Tennessee to see you, and then you change your mind. So
let me perhaps we could discuss that, and I can give you the dates for those other appointments if that would be something to make it clean and sweet with him. Yeah.
So here's what I would say to you. I'm going to throw it open very quickly to the other guys, but before I do that, here's what I want to say to you, Jay. You have my email address, right? Did you take it down before? rd@ancan.org.
Say that one more time.
RD, as in Rick Davis, at ancan.org, our website, ancan.org.
Got it. Okay.
And you know, if you want to give me a call in the morning, we can chat a little bit. I should tell you how we usually work. It's important everybody knows this. We do not, all our support group calls are free and they're drop-in. We ask everybody to sign up for Amazon Smile because it doesn't cost you anything, and every time you spend some money, it helps us a little bit. And if you're not already a member of Amazon Smile, then sign up for it, nominate us, nominate Answer Cancer Foundation. If you're already supporting somebody, we don't want you to change. You support who you feel is right. If we do personal navigation, then we ask you to make a donation. You can make a donation anyway if you appreciate the groups. But if you do personal navigation, we require that you make a donation. I bill my time at 150 an hour, but I never turn anybody away. None of us ever turn anybody away, and we just ask you to donate whatever you can afford. We're not in this for the money. At the same time, we have to keep, this organization is growing, and we have to keep it going. And to date, none of us have taken anything out of it for ourselves. So that's how we work. I just want to let you know. I would say give me a call in the morning, and we can go from there, and I can certainly help you. Peter, do you want to, Peter Kafka, do you want to say anything about Peter Carroll?
I think he's an excellent surgeon. I came out of surgery 4 years ago, continent, and able to urinate. I couldn't urinate before I went in, but I came out peeing, and I'm still continent to this day, 4 years later. So I think he's excellent. I too had seminal vesicle invasion. I guess that's my only question. I don't know too much about the effectiveness of radiation when the cat's out of the bag already. You know, with seminal vesicle invasion, how effective? I have a friend who went through temporary seeds, and it was very effective, but he had very low-grade disease, and he didn't have anything beyond his prostate. But once it's spread, I think they actually can do seminal vesicle treatment by temporary seeds, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know much about it, but you want to have a really good doc in a really good facility that does it. That would be my take on it. The best in the nation is at UCLA, and it's Dr. Demanis, Jeffrey Demanis, Demanes, with the temporary seed. But I'm sure they do a good job at Mayo as well. That's all I can say. You got a tough decision there. So I get all the expert opinions I could.
I agree that the seminal vesicle question, I was talking with my brother today about it, that does the temporary, are they able to address that, or does it really need a third thing where they put, you know, extra, just like surgery would go in and remove the vesicles? Do they have part of the IMRT is to put very circumscribed, localized, intensive radiation on the vesicles themselves? And what are they next to? Are they next to nerves and so forth that are that really can't take that? Is that problematic? I don't know.
Yeah, well, surgery they would probably remove a bunch of the lymph nodes as well. They did with me, even though they were negative. You know, any good surgeon is not going to leave those lymph nodes in the prostate bed. But I don't know how effective the radiation.
Did Peter take just a few, or did he take quite a few? When he
about 9, I believe. They were all negative for me, but I definitely had seminal vesicle invasion, and I've got systemic disease. So.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to say anything to Jay before we move along?
Well, Jay, I'm a Gleason 9. I had IMRT, 48 sessions, 86 gray. I had seminal vesicle involvement. I had 2 lymph nodes positive. I had, according to the pathology report, probable invasion of the bladder neck. That was 4 years ago, and I never had surgery, and the disease is not eradicated, but it's well under control. I'm currently on intermittent therapy, so drug holiday at the moment. So I mean, it is an option for you. That's all I'm saying. IMRT alone, well, not alone, but with hormone therapy is still an option for you. You don't necessarily need surgery because you have seminal vesicle involvement.
Can I ask a question about that? Is it possible, Rick?
Yes, go ahead, Irish.
About that seminal vessel, is that by giving the radiation to that? Is it like a pinpoint radiation? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I know what you're referring to. Now, this is part of just like wide field radiation. They call it whole pelvic girdle radiation. So it includes the prostate bed, regional lymph nodes, and the seminal vesicles.
Well, and now I could be wrong, and maybe I misunderstood. I don't know. Is there a possibility of, because of the radiation of that type, that it invades the colon? The radiation actually punctures a hole in the colon. Is that possible? That's what I think I've heard.
I think that's more old technology, old inaccurate technology. Nowadays, they have much more refined computer-guided radiation devices. Okay. There's also something called a hydrogel that they can insert between the space between your rectum and your prostate gland to help protect the rectum.
Okay, yeah, because I thought I heard something like that, because I'd ask about that radiation that you're speaking of here, and I thought that might be a problem. I heard that it might be a problem after you do the seeds, that they don't necessarily recommend the other radiation that you're speaking of. I wish I knew the name of it, but that's what I wanted to know. Does that make sense to anybody? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Well, we'll educate you, but the bottom line is, I think is what Len told you is spot on. I don't think there's a lot of risk today of a fistula which is a hole in the colon from radiation. There is some, particularly if you've got weak colon going in, but it's really pretty rare. I mean, I think I've known one guy that's been on these calls over the last 10 years, I think, that's had an issue, but it's really rare.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just thought I'd heard that with the radiation after you already had the pellets, and they don't recommend another type of radiation because of that. Now, that's my understanding. I could have misunderstood. Let's put it that way.
I would say not, but I mean, like I say, I had both, and I think and there's also more refined ways of aiming the radiation, but we need to move on because we've just got about 40 minutes left, and I need to go around everybody and see who would like some time today. I hope that both Irish and Jay, both of you come back. I hope you feel a bit more comfortable with the call than when you dialed in 40 minutes ago, an hour and 20 minutes ago. We're a friendly group. We'll connect you between you. Jay, if you want to speak with Jay Krukman in Memphis, I'm more than happy to connect you. If you want to get to Quan, maybe Brian can help us a little bit since he's got some open lines there. We will support you, like I said, in any way that we can. So I'm just going to run down who I believe is on the call at this point in time, and then I'm going to just run through and see who would like some time tonight. So I see Jake, Peter Kafka. I think Art Boosie has left us. Brian Heisey, Dennis Correa, Rick Paulson, Schreff, Jay Kruckman, and Sierra, Paul Frieda, Spokane Gary, J-Bob, Tom Van Zant, John Appler, and Jim Harrington. Did I miss anybody? Okay. All right, I'm starting at the top. I'm working down. Jake, would you like any time tonight?
No, sir. Nothing for me tonight.
Thanks. Peter, Kafka.
Yeah, yes, if there's time, I would love to bring out a subject we haven't talked about in a while. That's pertinent to me.
Okay, that's pertinent to you. If it's pertinent to you, we have time. Art Boosie, are you still with us? No.
Yeah, he left a while ago.
Yeah, I saw him leave. I've already had one discussion with him today, so I know what his agenda was about. It's a shame that he couldn't bear with us. Brian Heisey, would you like any time tonight?
No, I don't need any time, but if you want to hook me up with, or if Jay doesn't mind hooking me up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Dennis Correa, any time for you? You're very quiet tonight, Mr. Correa.
I'm just absorbing.
Okay.
Yes, I do have a few seconds of something to update.
Okay. Rick Paulson, we haven't heard from you in quite a while. Would you like a little bit of time?
I would, but it's going to take more than a little bit of time, and I'm going to have to jump off the call shortly. Maybe on the next event, we can talk about trials. I have an opportunity to participate in a trial with Dr. Antonarkis down at Johns Hopkins.
Oh, we know him.
Phase 2 trial.
How soon do you have to jump off the call?
About another 10 minutes.
Okay, well, let me get through this. We'll go to you first.
All right, thank you.
Schreff, anything for you?
Nothing for me, Rick. Thank you.
Okay. Jay Kruckman, anything for you?
Nothing this evening, Rick. Thank you.
Len, anything for you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I skipped out on my oncology visit. However, I did get a PSA result, so if we have 30 seconds later on, I can go over that.
Great. Paul Frieda, anything for you?
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
Okay, Gary, anything for you?
No, thanks, Rick.
Jay Curran, anything for you?
Yes, I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Tom Van Zant, anything for you? Oh, I think he came and he came in and he left. John Appler, anything for you?
Nope, I'm fine, Rick. Thanks a lot.
Good, good. Jim Harrington, how about you?
Not tonight, Rick. I'll just listen.
Okay. Now, are you sure? Because last time you said you would just listen and you had a lot to tell us about.
That's true. I guess that's true. Well, I did have an appointment today, but it looks like your time may be limited. I'll tell you what, you can put me at the end.
All right, we'll put you at the end because I don't like to let you go. You're working.
Yeah, okay. I have some information. I can reshare it.
Any man who's had 17 docetaxels deserves a little time on this call. That's what.
Well, yeah, now it's up to about 19 or so.
Oh, 19. That's true. All right. Rick Paulson, why don't you tell us about what Dr. Antonarkis is offering you?
Okay, executive summary. I've been on Lupron for the past 18 months. That didn't do any good. I had 41 IMRT about a year ago. My PSA is still rising. It put me on Casodex. That didn't do it. So my local medical oncologist has referred me down to Dr. Antonarkis down at Johns Hopkins. I met with him. I have what I think they call it the ATM gene, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And there is a phase 2 3-arm trial that he is involved in, and I've been invited to participate. But I guess in general, I'm just looking for guidance on people that might have participated in trials before. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Okay. What is your PSA at right now?
Well, I just had it taken again today. About 3 weeks ago, I was 70.
Okay.
And it's been climbing quite fast.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the last time I have a record, it was 0.95 after 3 months on hormone therapy, I think.
Yeah, that was right after the IMRT and hormone therapy, and then it jumped to 40 and then 60. It dropped down just a little bit when I went on the Casodex in addition to the Lupron.
Mhm.
Then it went up to 70. And again, I just had a blood draw today. I'll have my new number tomorrow.
Mhm.
I'm a Gleason 9, a 5+4.
Right. And you have not yet done any second-line antiandrogens like Zytiga or enzalutamide?
No, that's where we're at. The standard of care was going to be Zytiga and prednisone,
Right.
but then this trial is available. One of the arms is Zytiga and prednisone. The other arm is something called olaparib, which apparently.
Okay, so
Is it?
yes, it's called olaparib or Lynparza. So we happen to know quite a bit about that drug.
Okay. All right.
So and it's a great shame that Professor Bill isn't on the call, but we can connect you to Professor Bill. Because he's done olaparib for about 2 or 3 years. It's not working for him now. I didn't realize they were using it with an ATM mutation, and that's what I'd like you to talk to Bill about, how effective Bill thinks it would be for an ATM mutation. Now, Bill is not a doctor, but he is a cancer researcher, and he is an expert in PARP inhibitors, which is what olaparib is. And he's been researching PARP inhibitors for many years, and ironically, serendipitously, if you could call it that, it turned out that he was BRCA positive, and that's how come he started using the drug that he'd been researching. So he's kind of a perfect guy to check out this ATM mutation and how likely it is to be impacted by the PARP inhibitor, olaparib. Let me ask, is there anyone on the call who on this call right now who's actually participated in the trial? No? We have a lot of guys that have, but I'm looking at the list and no one shouts at me.
Rick, it's Jim. I participated in the trial.
That's right. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah,
Talk about
that was pembrolizumab and listeria.
And listeria, of course, yes.
The combined, yeah.
Sure.
Well, I stayed on it for a while, but then it stopped working, so no trial.
Right, and I think the difference in your trial was you knew what drug you were getting.
That's right. That's right. Everybody got the same thing, pembro and listeria.
Right.
That's right.
Rick, I think the big issue with trials is the uncertainty as to what treatment you're going to get. Now, if in your case the worst that can happen is you get the standard of care, which is Zytiga plus prednisone, the downside is more limited. The issue is whether the PARP inhibitor in place of the second-line antiandrogen is going to be more effective or not. And the best person to judge that would be someone like Bill, because he's going to know. I didn't think ATM was in the pathway of a PARP inhibitor, but I could definitely be wrong. And that's what we need to ask him.
What is ATM, Rick?
ATM is a gene.
Oh.
It's not what you're thinking.
Rick?
Yes.
I believe I believe that it is one of the DNA damage repair genes, which means that a PARP inhibitor would be helpful.
Okay, then there you go.
But he should talk to Bill for sure.
Okay.
How can I get a hold of Bill, or how can I have him get a hold of me?
I'll connect you after the call. I'll connect you in the next 24 hours.
All right, wonderful if you do that. Another quick question about this, almost unrelated. How about life insurance? I have life insurance. If I participate in a trial, is that going to jeopardize my life insurance? Is it like if you go skydiving or something?
Len, didn't you have a life insurance issue one time? Was it you?
No, but I did go skydiving.
Go play with the sharks.
That
would definitely affect your insurance.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I did apply for life insurance because I kept getting annoying calls from United Healthcare. And so I filled out the form. I said I had stage 4 prostate cancer. And then they said, oh, sorry, you're not eligible.
What else is new, right?
Yeah, right. So, but at least they stopped sending me, promotional materials.
Yeah.
But did you stop getting the robocalls?
You know what?
Yes,
You just tell them that anyways. You stop all those calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else on this on the line have experience with life insurance and trials? It's a great question. No, I don't think it's ever come up before. No, I guess not.
And the same thing with health insurance. Any concerns on that?
No, there should be. No, not at your age. It should be a non-issue. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I've never encountered anybody that's had a problem with their health insurance with respect to a trial. Jim Harrington, was that ever an issue for you?
Life insurance, Rick?
Health insurance with the trial?
No. The insurance, the trial was all paid for. I never paid a dime. If that's what you mean?
And it didn't affect.
But my insurance has covered all of my treatments, all of my chemo, and Standians I take and so forth. I've been very fortunate.
Rick, we will. I'll connect you to Professor Bill within the next 24 hours, and he's usually pretty good about getting back, but I think he's been undergoing some issues himself recently, and so it might be a little bit slower than he normally is, but shouldn't be. But I'm sure you'll hear from him. But if Len is correct, and I'm sure he is, and it is and the ATM is a repair gene, is a gene. How do you say it, Len? Help me out.
Yeah, DNA damage repair genes, DDR.
Right, it's a
DDR. Yeah.
And it is that. I do know that it is.
Okay, well then if it is, then yeah, there's probably good reason. But I think Bill will be able to give you an idea as to how effective he thinks the PARP inhibitor could be. And of course, Antonarakis is terrific. He's a great doc. From what I know from the guys that we've had that have seen him, he has a good bedside manner. And,
very good.
And have you met him already?
I did meet him once. I had one session with him so far.
Okay. So, I mean, he's one of the best in the country. So,
excellent.
We totally endorse you seeing him. But I think, as we said to you last time, you do need to get, even if you don't do this trial, you do need a specialized genitourinary medical oncologist on your team along the way. So
okay.
Okay. We'll move along. Ken Anderson, I see, has joined us. Is there anything you'd like to talk to us about tonight, Mr. Anderson?
No, I'm pretty good, Rick.
Okay. We have not heard or seen from Cam nor from Thibaut. Although I will tell everybody that Thibaut seems to be doing quite well, and his PSA is definitely going down. Who was it that was asking us before? Oh, Jay, you were talking to us before about Sam Denmead. This is one of our guys who did a bone marrow transplant and is now doing bipolar androgen therapy under Dr. Denmead's supervision in a trial at Hopkins.
Mm-hmm. Did Thibaut respond to your email, Rick?
Yeah, what he did is I asked him to reach out to Cam Upton, and he copied me on the reply that he sent to Cam Upton. So, okay, since time is of the essence here, let's move to Peter Kafka.
Okay, we're not going to come up with an answer on this, but I just want to open this up because we haven't talked about it in a long time, and it's pertinent to me. I just came back from the week doctor tour in California. I was in San Francisco, LA, and San Diego, all within 5 days. Had excellent conversations, consultations with 3 different doctors and a short procedure at UCSF. And what I'm looking at is recurrent cancer, which is oligometastatic. 2 lymph nodes showed up in a scan, and they're just north of previous radiation on my pelvic girdle. So they're in my abdominal area on the, just by the iliac crest, pelvis area. And I looked at these things with several different doctors. I looked at the scan results and so forth. Had a consultation with a Dr. Wong at UCSF and seeing what he could do for me, and he felt pretty confident that he could zap those 2 lymph nodes with IMRT, SBRT, stereotactic body radiation, traditional radiation. Went down to see my oncologist and talked to him about it down at Marina Del Rey. And Dr. Turner, we had a pretty open, frank discussion, and he let me know that amongst his patients that have been in a situation like I've been, they did not get good results with stereotactic body radiation to lymph nodes, recurring lymph nodes like that. And he was curious. He wanted to find out how my third doctor appointment went, and I went down to San Diego and spent an hour with Dr. Carl Rossi down there at the California proton beam therapy place, radiation therapy place, which if you've ever been there, it's a pretty spanking new fancy facility down in the Miramar area outside north of San Diego. And I had an excellent discussion with him. His approach was that yes, he could hit those 2 lymph nodes, but because all the lymph nodes are connected, he would recommend about 20 treatments or so with proton beam. This is all north of my previous treatment. And he feels I could get a substantial longer-term remission out of it. And that's what Turner was thinking too, that just hitting those 2 lymph nodes was dangerous. And I had a good conversation with Wong at UCSF because I was a little nervous about radiation to these lymph nodes because one is right by the bladder, and the other one, those, right on top of the intestinal area. And I'm a little nervous about radiation burning through these things. And proton beam therapy, the advantage of it supposedly is that it goes to the spot and not through the spot. So the chances of burning a hole in my bladder or causing more trauma there or into my intestines and so forth seem to be less. So I haven't made a decision yet. I'm getting good results now. I've been almost 3.5 weeks on Zytiga and prednisone and Lupron, and my PSA has dropped down about 70% and falling, and so I'm buying time. I'm not in any rush to make a decision, but I probably will do something this summer or fall. And just want to get your feedback, because I know not many of us have looked into proton beam, and I know it has a cultish type of following, but I think it's gaining momentum. And Seattle, a number of other places are doing proton beam now. It's expensive machinery, but just curious what people think.
Anybody want to respond before I say anything? No.
I'd just like to say that that is a tough choice, Peter. You and I have, similar parallel cases, and I don't know what I would do if I was in that same situation, and I may very well be in the near future. Who knows? But what I've heard about proton beam is exactly what you have said. But on the other hand, with regard to the use of it for prostate cancer as primary radiation therapy, if you can go check the reviews that have been studied on the new prostate cancer info link by Alan Adele, and it doesn't quite live up to its reputation. And according to Alan, at least, its side effects seem to be certainly no different than SBRT, possibly a little better than IMRT. But I'd advise you to read anything that has to do with proton beam from the new prostate cancer info link.
Thanks.
Sure.
Peter, I mean, what I do recall, again, from the primary standpoint, is that the incidence of gastrointestinal side effects is higher than with proton beam, and the incidence of rectal urinary side effects is higher with conventional beam. So, one is not better than the other. Now, it may well be that because of the place and position of where these lymph nodes are, that maybe proton beam is favored. But I think what is puzzling me, and I would really want to dig into this, is that if Rossi wants to do 20 sessions with PBRT, I can't imagine that it wouldn't overlap the pelvic girdle radiation that you already had from Albert Chang.
Well, no, he would definitely get the previous plan and make sure there was no overlap. When we went over that, either one would not overlap the other, even if I went with SBRT, UCSF, because I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to take it.
So I guess what I'm saying is, well, how does he know up front, without even seeing where you've had it, that you need 20 sessions?
Well, he was just talking. We haven't come up with a plan yet. We haven't come up with it. This was just an initial consultation. I spent an hour or so with each of these docs, and they gave me plenty of time. I don't know. Rossi's done about 9,000 guys with prostate with proton beam. He's done more than anybody else in the world.
How many salvage or super-salvage has he done?
I don't know. I'd have to research that.
That's what you want to know.
Right.
Because it's a completely different ball game. And you had an RP, you had radiation, you had salvage radiation, and what he's talking about is doing more salvage radiation. You mentioned 20 sessions. Was that a number that you came up with, or a number he mentioned? He mentioned. So again, you see, I don't mean to be a cynic, but I guess I am. I'm really concerned with these guys with equipment like specialized equipment where they're pushing sessions when they don't need to be. And I've seen it too often. And talk about 20 sessions, which is his number to you, when you've already had all this radiation and he hasn't even seen, I don't know where he's going to stick it. And what I would like to do, what I would suggest, you said you went over to UCLA. Did you see was that to see Albert? I missed who you said.
No, I didn't go to UCLA. I went to Marina Del Rey to see Dr. Turner.
Oh, I thought you said after that you went over to UCLA.
No, I just used LA as an example of the general area.
Okay.
No,
so what I think I would do is I would write to Albert and say, do you think it's feasible to do more radiation, not just to the lymph nodes, because he's not taught, as he said, I would do the lymph nodes and I think I could get them, but I'd do more than that. Well,
right.
I've never heard, I don't know what he's going to do because you had wide area pelvic radiation.
Right. Well, as I think the thought is that the disease in me is systemic. And yes, you could zap those 2 lymph nodes, but maybe a year down the road, it's going to show up in another 2 lymph nodes in the abdominal area, or another 2 lymph nodes, or whatever. And if you don't kind of hit some of these other lymph nodes, just like you do with the prostate bed, it's liable to, you're not really buying much time. That's the thought. That's my understanding of it.
Peter, I hear you, but that's what the pelvic girdle radiation did.
Right, it did, but now it's up in the abdominal area.
Okay. So what he's saying is he wants to give you radiation to the abdominal area.
Right, because that's where these 2 lymph nodes are.
Okay. So if he wants to give you radiation to the abdominal area, the research, I think I can find it for you, suggests that proton beam has worse side effects than regular beam to the gastrointestinal area.
Okay, great. I'd like to see that. I'm not in a rush to make a decision here. I think everything's now under control, and maybe I won't even do anything. I mean, that's another option. It's just kind of turning my back on this stuff for a while and not even thinking about it for a while. But I don't know.
Okay, I'll send you this to you. It's old. I mean, I was thinking about this week because it should be available pretty soon, but there is a trial going on, a head-to-head trial on PBRT versus SBRT, but for primary, which is really not what we're talking about for you. But I think once that gets published, it's going to clear up a lot of issues. But I will definitely send you this PBRT. I guess I wasn't really focused on him wanting to take a whole new area, which is the abdominal area, and I'm wanting to concentrate there. I got it now.
Okay.
I'd just like to say one more thing, Peter. I would talk to Chris King at UCLA. I spoke to him on the phone. I really liked him. And of course, he has a ton of experience with SBRT. You might want to get his opinion on SBRT versus proton.
Well, but there's 2 things going on here, Len. The SBRT.
Oh yeah, it's not traditional.
Well, no, the SBRT can target the lymph nodes themselves, but you could never. I don't think you can use SBRT for a wide area. And what Rossi's talking about is doing a wider area with PBRT, which has a much wider focus.
Okay.
So, that's why, and I'm not saying it isn't a good idea to talk to this guy. It may well be, but this isn't SBRT versus PBRT if we're talking about more than just targeting the lymph node. If we're talking about targeting the lymph nodes, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks much, guys.
Good luck.
Peter, number 1, it's a pleasure, and number 2, don't ever be shy to take time for yourself on this call. Please.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Okay, I know.
Okay. Dennis.
Last time we talked, I told you I'd gone for my scans, my 6-month scans up at Mayo.
Yeah.
And they all came back, no new metastases.
Oh.
So this is 6 months after being on the Zytiga and prednisone. So looks like the stuff is really working for me.
That's great. Is there any change in any of the size?
Just the prostate is smaller, and I think there was one other no new suspicious lymph nodes. I think are smaller.
Okay.
And I think that's about all that they mentioned of being. Let's see. No, everything else is good. No pancreatic lesions, normal adrenal glands, no enlarged lymph nodes. Everything else is very good.
Great. What about the bone mets that were there?
They are still there. No mention of sizes or anything on those mets. It's just that they did pick them up, the previous ones in the sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, and the both bilateral femurs.
Okay.
Necks.
And we seem to think there's no change in them.
Right.
Good. As they say, Dennis, keep taking the pills.
Oh, I'm doing it. And in my next meeting, I think I'm going to inquire about the option possibly to do the Zytiga down to 25% of my existing dose and take it with a meal.
Right.
Because it just makes life a whole lot easier not having to get up an hour earlier just to take my Zytiga.
Right. And do you have the references on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. All
yeah,
right.
there was the phase 2 trial.
Right.
That was the outcome of it.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Good news. We like good news. Len, do we have any good news with respect to your PSA?
I think so. And mine is, I think, a case report of just how unpredictable the progression of this disease can be. So just to recap, I've been on drug holiday for a year now. Now, if you go back to, let's see, March of 2017, I'm sorry, January of 2017, my PSA was 0.1. Started creeping up a bit. It was at 0.17 when I started drug holiday. And it kept creeping up throughout 2017 until November, it was 0.51. And I was, as you know, I was going down to Florida for 3 months, January, February, and March. So I said to my oncologist, well, we have a decision to make. Should I go back on therapy before I go down to Florida or not? I've been rising all year. So he said, well, he said, sometimes I've seen this before where it can plateau at 0.4, 0.5. So he said, let's take another reading in December, just a month later. That reading was identical, 0.51. So we both agreed, all right, let's take a chance. I'll go down to Florida for 3 months, stay off all drugs. So then just a few days ago, I had another PSA check, and fortunately for me, it remained right there at 0.51.
Good.
So it seems to have plateaued for the past, 6 months, even though it was creeping up all year last year. and this is without therapy. So who knows what'll happen? And I didn't get to see him today, but my next appointment with him will be May 9th. So, I'll talk to him, see what he thinks.
Well,
That's great news, Len.
Len.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that. I mean, it's obviously still there, but at least I can continue drug holiday.
Yeah.
What's your Gleason, Lynn?
9.
9. Wow.
Yep.
Well, so you have a prostate, right, Len?
I never had surgery. Only.
So you'll always produce some PSA.
I asked him about that. He said, no, your prostate was reduced to mush by the 48 sessions of IMRT.
Is that the scientific term, mush?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way he talks. He's cool. I like him.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you had radiation that you can have a PSA reading. A lot of times you may do, especially if you have sort of low-level disease and you just get the prostate radiated. But like in my case, I'm a less than 0.1, and I had radiation. So, but Len, I think there's a treatment recommendation that comes out of this, don't you?
What's that? Florida?
That's right. Move to Florida. Move to Florida.
I like your diagnosis, Dr. Rick, or your prescription.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? You were a 9. You were a 4+5, right? You were a 4+5.
Correct.
Correct. Anybody else want to say anything to Lem before we move along?
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Peter.
We love it. We love it. Okay. Jay Curran, a quick one, because I want to touch base with Jim Harrington too.
Okay. My question is, I'm wondering if I'm getting Firmagon side effects mixed up with the results of inguinal hernia surgery. I had 4 of them repaired last June, and now I will get stomach cramps and diarrhea maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, and that's about as often as I'm getting Firmagon shots.
I have not heard of that type of gastrointestinal side effects from androgen deprivation therapy. Has anyone else had that type of side effect from androgen deprivation therapy alone with no radiation?
I was on Firmagon a lot. I never had that reaction, but it doesn't mean anything. As we've said 100 times, everybody's different. I think if you looked at the package insert for that drug or almost any other drug, you'll see diarrhea as a possible side effect.
Yeah. Okay.
Or constipation. So it's hard to tell.
One thing about it is, there'll be soreness from the Firmagon shot for 3 or 4 days. I mean, that's always been the case.
Yeah.
But I'm scheduled to see a GI doctor and had some ultrasound. Done work on it already.
The other thing is, ask Agarwal. When's your appointment with Agarwal?
May 6th, I believe it is.
Okay. Well, I would ask Agarwal whether he's ever encountered soreness and stomach cramps and diarrhea as a result of ADT.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, I would definitely ask him that. Is this going to be this is your first appointment with him, isn't it, Bob?
Yes, it is.
Well, put it on the list and
yep.
And ask him. But I mean, like I say, I had all of the above, but I also had a heck of a lot of radiation. And so, you know, I always put it down to the radiation. And I haven't heard anybody with these issues who has, you know, just from the ADT alone.
Well, I know that diarrhea is fairly common with nilutamide and flutamide, which are similar to bicalutamide, but you're probably not on those, right?
No, I'm not. I will. It'll last about 5 hours. You know, I eat crackers and applesauce and bananas. You know, crack diet.
And you had another question, Bob, quickly?
Oh, it's kind of a general question. I didn't do my homework, but I came across a study within the last week about aggressive treatment versus non-conservative treatment for castrate-resistant patients, and it was very similar. The results, you know, like 25% of them were alive after 5 years, and one was 29%. Has anybody heard anything about that study?
Well, I think I saw it. I can't remember, but it didn't really strike me, and I can't remember what the difference was between the aggressive and the non-aggressive, and I think we'd have to know that to give you any comments, because I don't know what aggressive and non-aggressive means without that context.
Okay.
If you want to find the study and raise it next time, we could talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Jim Harrington, are you still there?
Yes, Rick, I'm here.
Good. Okay. Most of you, in case none of you don't know, we have another professor here who, if I'm not mistaken, is largely responsible for not LASIK surgery, but for laser surgery, right?
Laser surgery, yeah, right. They provide the fibers, yeah.
This is one of the original innovators of laser surgery from the engineering and physics standpoint, not the medical standpoint. Correct, Professor?
That's correct. Yes, spot on.
Okay.
Well, you know, Rick, I know it's after 10, so I can be kind of brief, but I did get my Foundation 1 report today, and I just got it. I did see my med-onc, and the Foundation 1, I have no actionable genes. So that didn't work out for me, but that's the way it goes. And I'm going to be stopping docetaxel after about 19 of these little things. And although I deal with it okay, and we're going to go into carboplatin or carboplatin, one of the two, in 2 weeks. So I'm going to go off this particular chemo and onto another chemo, which you know, guys on the call, you know, with my, you know, actually, I will have to say that docetaxel keeps my PSA pretty constant around 5, you know, 4.7 to 5.3 or so, and it just bounces along and hasn't really ticked up, like you said, Rick. But they're going to switch to carboplatin and add Taxol, I guess, to that, or carboplatin, and that'll be in 2 weeks, and then we'll see. I don't know how many treatments I'm going to have, but I mean, the good news is that chemo, while it's not all that much fun naturally, does work. You have to look at it that way sometimes, and I deal with the side effects. And a lot of men can't take docetaxel very long. I've got 19 of them. Must be setting a record. And it does work. And you just learn I deal with the side effects pretty well. But they're there. And chemo is no fun. And would you say, Rick, ABC, anything but chemo? But sometimes you just got to take it. So that's where I am. My PSA is about 5.4. It just sort of bounces up and down. And now we're going to switch to carboplatin.
So, a couple of things. I have to disappoint you. I'm aware of a guy that's had over 40 docetaxel. Sorry to.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So
yeah. Well, that's. I don't know. Maybe I'll be up there with. Yeah, that's a lot.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing is, I want to pass this on because it was Rob Boniscus that told me this, and he got it from from his GU Medonc in Minneapolis, Stuart Bloom, who's very good, that their opinion is that not good to do carboplatin and a taxane base together because you don't get enough of either of them. And so when Rob tried carboplatin, which didn't really work for him, he just did the carboplatin. And and what I would suggest is raising that issue with your medical oncologist and asking them whether that is true or not.
Yeah, I think they would agree that it is not true just to take one, and they will give me Taxol or paclitaxel, and along with the carboplatin.
Okay, well,
but no docetaxel, of course. Just.
Well, hold on a second. That doesn't make sense. They're going to give you.
Well, it's not dose. Yeah, they're going to give me a Taxol. I think that's the plan. Not docetaxel, but a Taxol.
Okay.
Cabazitaxel.
It's going to be paclitaxel. Trade name Onsol. I've never heard of it.
All right.
But it's a Taxol. I mean,
taxane-based chemotherapy that they're going to give.
That's right, along with the carboplatin or carbazine.
Which is not what was a different opinion to what.
I thought that's what you said.
No, what I said is they do one or they do the other, but they don't do both because you're not getting a big enough dose of the carboplatin.
Oh, okay. And I think the emphasis will be on either Jevtana or the carboplatin. But that remains to be seen. But I hear you, Rick. I'll ask.
But
isn't Eric doing both right now? The carboplatin and the cabazitaxel?
Yeah, he is. But the problem that was raised is that you don't get the benefit of either of them when you do them both together. You need to do one or the other.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is go off the docetaxel, and the emphasis will be on the carbo drugs. And I gather maybe there's some reason to add a little bit of a Taxol to it, but the emphasis will be on the carbo. That was my understanding, but I'll know more in 2 weeks.
Okay, well, check them out. The other thing is,
I'll check it out.
I really, really want to encourage you, and I didn't have a chance to say this last time, but I really want to encourage you to get another GU Medonc onto your team now that Stein is it at Columbia?
Yeah, now that, well, I can go see Stein up at Columbia Presbyterian, and he's got a trial that he believes an immunotherapy drug will help. I'm always kind of skeptical of these things, but we're talking to him about it. He's now into trials with.
Well, whether it's Stein at Columbia Presbyterian or whether you go back and talk to Dana Radkoff about.
Yeah, well, I think I should go back and talk to Dana Radkoff. Nothing negative about MSK. I mean, it's fantastic. Dana Radkoff would be good to run this by her at this point. She was always big on carbo drugs. She wanted me to do that along with docetaxel. I didn't do it. I just did docetaxel. Now that's kind of at the end of the line. She probably would say, go get carboplatin.
Okay, well, and she'd be a good person to ask whether it should be.
She would be
administered with a taxane-based drug or on its own.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rick. I take your point.
So I want you to promise me that you're going to make an appointment to see her because I just.
Yeah, you're right. I do. I mean, and I really like her. She's fantastic.
Good.
And she's no nonsense. Wow.
Okay.
You talk to her and you find out real fast where you're going.
Okay. So we're going to see her, right, Professor?
Yeah, sure, Rick. Yeah, I do everything you say, And okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. I have no argument.
You tell Jan that I'm putting.
Yeah, what?
You tell Jan that I'm putting the screws on you to get another.
All right, we'll come down to Tucson and see you. We just couldn't make it the last time. We're going to come back to Tucson.
I want to get you healthy enough to come down here so I can have dinner with you.
Oh, I'm okay. Actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I really am. I'm doing pretty well.
Okay.
Jim, can I ask a question about your Foundation One?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and ask me. I have the report in front of me.
This is Jake. Did you have the liquid biopsy with the subset?
No. I did it one time. Didn't yield much. No, I had a biopsy. They could biopsy my lymph node, and they got prostate cancer tissue. And so I'm looking at the report. It's one page, and just says none. There's nothing there. I mean, yeah, no, I had a biopsy. It was done.
And one is 300 and so samples or whatever. So I was just
yeah,
curious.
no, that's right. I take your point. Yeah, I had both, but the biopsy was very easy. They stuck a needle in me and did it really fast. I just lay on my stomach and boom, they poked right into the old lymph node and got the tissue right away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys. Sorry, we're 10%. We're 10 minutes over, but that's what happens when you have a couple of new guys. I take full responsibility. Blame it on.
Well, thanks for your suggestion, Rick, and to all the guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, pleasure as always, Jim. All right. Next meeting will be next Tuesday, the 24th. Right, Tuesday, the 24th.
6 Eastern time.
Thank you very much. You're quite right, Jake.
Okay.
Okay, and for all you guys who I mentioned I'll follow through, I will follow through and within the next 24 hours. Just give me a little bit of time to catch up. I'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.